Super Fang going to take away half of Bo Rotom's health. Dragon Claw right back after a critical hit! A critical hit and Sejun Park takes down Bo Rotom! And Sejun Park is your 2014 Pokemon World Video Game Champion in the Masters Division.
This past weekend in Seoul, South Korea, the Pokemon Go Battle Korea tournament was held. This was an invitation-only tournament to top Go Battle League players from South Korea to determine who is the best South Korean Pokemon Go PvP player. Now, when the dust settled at the end of 2 grueling days of competition, a former video game world champion, Sejun Park, emerged victorious. Sejun has been an avid Pokemon Go PvP player for many years. Sejun has made the leaderboards, which is the global top 500, in 14 of the 23 seasons of Pokemon Go PvP, and has peaked over 3,500 ELO with a career leaderboard best of rank 2 in the world. So Sejun is no newcomer when it comes to Pokemon Go PvP. To start with, let's chat about the team that Sejun brought to this tournament, and then let's showcase the games that helped him be crowned champion. The first Pokemon we'll be talking about on Sejun's team is Dusclops. Dusclops offers a ton of advantages. It's a bulky generalist, meaning it is play in just about every matchup, and it has unbelievably good pacing. The next Pokemon on Sejun's team is Credilli. Not only is Credilli an amazing setup mon thanks to Rock Tomb, its move that guaranteed lowers the opponent's attack stat every time it's used, but it breaks up a lot of flying plus water cores. And with its fast move Acid, it has really nice fast move pressure. The third Pokemon that gets added to the team is Quagsire. Quagsire has an amazing typing, Water Ground, that only has one weakness, which is to grass types, and the only grass type in the meta, Credilli, runs a poison fast move, so Quagsire isn't even particularly threatened by the main grass type in the meta as long as shields are in play, making it a really nice generalist. And speaking of generalists, having a way to shut down your opponent's generalist can be very valuable, and that's where the fourth team member comes into play, Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz does an amazing job at checking both Dusclops and Shadow Drapion, which are 2 terrific generalists, and it's a rare Pokemon that can actually deal with a Shadow Scizor up energy. It's funny we should mention Shadow Scizor, because Shadow Scizor is the 5th Pokemon added to this team. Shadow Scizor is the ultimate glass cannon. It cannot take a hit, but with its incredible coverage and great charge moves, it's able to output massive amounts of damage onto basically everything in the meta, with only a few very specific exceptions. And the final Pokemon added to the team is the perfect Pokemon to help cover for Scizor's weaknesses, and that is Dedenne. Now, Dedenne is an electric rodent Pokemon, which, if you know Sejun's history, is very on brand. Dedenne does a great job at beating the Pokemon that Scizor doesn't want to face. Scizor, not a fan of Annihilate and Mandibuzz. Dedenne, being an electric fairy, completely erases those Pokemon. And the only real fire type in the meta, Talonflame, also takes super effective damage from Dedenne. Dedenne by itself is a very strong pick. While it's limited in coverage against ground types, it is an incredibly effective core breaker into many teams. Now that we've taken a look at his full team, let's hop right into some selected matches from the tournament and watch this team climb to the very top. His first opponent in the tournament was Gallar Pori, a trainer running a team with Dedenne, Sableye, Lapras, Diggersby, an unexpected blast from the past, Dragonair, and Azumarill as the final Pokemon. The leads are set for game number 1, and it's a dominant lead for Sejun as he leads Quagsire into Dedenne. A Shadow Sableye safe switch is actually going to be unanswered here, choosing to stay in with the Quagsire and connect with the Aqua Tail, dealing some pretty considerable damage. Gallar Pori is going to bait with the foul play. We see the bait called by the Quagsire. If that was Dazzling Gleam, that would have inflicted significantly more damage, but Quagsire is able to hang on and pick up the knockout, and now alignment has been preserved. And alignment is going to work out very nicely for Sejun in the endgame. Sejun is able to land this Aqua Tail. Dedenne gets a full Thundershock farm down, but pays a heavy price as it's lost almost its entire health bar. In comes Credilli. Credilli is very safe into Gallar's team, so we will see the shield come out. In comes Diggersby, and things are looking amazing for Credilli to close out this game. Diggersby's fast move quick attack is resisted in this matchup, which means there's basically no fast move pressure being done to the Credilli. Add to that the fact that Scorching Sands does not two-shot, and this is just an endgame from which there is no escape for Gallar Pori. This Grass Knot is going to be double shielded. Gallar Pori knows the Diggersby will be the win con, but unfortunately, even being up a shield, it's not enough for Diggersby to be able to close out this game. Diggersby is now going to be hit with the Grass Knot, burned all the Protect shields on the earlier Grass Knots, but a Grass Knot is still going to land, and that deals devastating damage. Credilli is going to be hit with a Fire Punch now. This will grab the shield. Gallar Pori needs a catch, does not get the catch. Unfortunately, predicted that Sejun would overfarm. Sejun just takes the knockout, and that means this endgame is now unwinnable as it's Dedenne versus Dedenne, but Gallar Pori has lost his entire health bar. Parabolic Charge picks up the KO, and that's going to be a Game 1 win in this best of 3 series for Sejun. The first 2 series are going to be best of 3, and then after that, it's going to be best of 5. We move to game number 2, and we have Dedenne versus Dedenne. Now, this matchup is a bit of an interesting one. Do you opt to go for the Parabolic Charge bait and boost up your defense, or do you full send the play rough? Sejun goes for the bait, it does get no shielded, and now Gallar will return fire with the play rough. Dedenne has already boosted its defense, so it will be able to survive that play rough no problem. We see a Parabolic Charge bait and a no shield from Gallar Pori. That is a nice no shield from Gallar Pori, who can now apply quite a bit of pressure to Sejun. This can only be the Parabolic Charge. We see the no shield aggressive switch into Shadow Sableye, getting the farm down, and Shadow Sableye up 3 Shadow Claws of energy is about to be an absolute nightmare. Full sending the Dazzling Gleam, no baits here. Sejun tries to call the bait, gets rocked with that Dazzling Gleam, and now Gallar Pori can potentially look to farm down. Gallar calls the Aqua Tail bait, looking for the farm down, but Quagsire on 1 HP makes a last second charge move. If he didn't get that move, the game was immediately over. It's still looking difficult for Sejun, but by reaching that last second charge attack, suddenly he may have life. But the issue is this Credilli is just going to take so much damage here, forced to burn a shield. The foul play lands. In comes Lapras. Lapras normally has a very bad matchup into Credilli, but with Credilli having taken so much damage already, suddenly Lapras is fine here. Lapras is going to play to the charge attack priority tie. Rock Tomb number 2 getting launched by Sejun. Now this Lapras is double debuffed. This means the Sparkling Aria will do far less damage than it normally would, but again, the issue for Sejun is the health on the Credilli. The Credilli is just simply too low. This Sparkling Aria will get Credilli deep into the red health, farming up the switch and the catch onto Morpeko. Gallar Pori sending a message in game number 2, catching the move onto Dedenne. One side wave picks up the KO, and we're going to a game number 3 in this series. The leads are set for game number 3, and it's a great lead for Sejun as he leads Dedenne into Shadow Sableye. Dedenne farms up to the play rough, baiting with the Parabolic Charge. Gallar Pori thinking about calling the bait, calls the bait, and suddenly Shadow Sableye is in a position where it can actually win the ones here. Sableye baits with the foul play, gets the shield from Dedenne, and now Sableye will be able to shield up Parabolic Charge number 2, make it to a Dazzling Gleam, and actually control switch advantage in this game. Switch advantage, oftentimes very, very helpful, but as we take a look across the back lines, unfortunately, switch advantage is meaningless in this game as there are 2 counters for both Diggersby and Lapras in the back for Sejun. The moment Sejun sees Diggersby get brought in here, Sejun will know this game is over. There's going to be nothing that Gallar Pori can do. Sejun, I really like the backline that he chose here. The backline, not only does it double counter both Lapras and Diggersby, but it also double counters a potential Dedenne. So the Quagsire plus Credilli duo paying massive dividends in this game. Here, due to the debuff, the Diggersby actually survives on 1 HP to make one final charge attack. In comes the Lapras. Lapras will be met with the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to grab the shield from Gallar Pori, and now in comes Quagsire. Quagsire cannot get to the Stone Edge before the Skull Bash is reached. Skull Bash is going to be shielded up by Sejun. Skull Bash raises the defense of the Lapras, but it doesn't raise it enough. enough. This is a Shadow Stone Edge, big damage onto the Lapras, and Sejun will just look to fire off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will not KO the boosted Lapras, but it's all about just getting damage over time, and now that Lapras is just simply too low. There's no ability for Gallar Pori to win anymore, as Quagsire will get the Mudshot farm down, and Sejun is able to take the series by a 2-1 victory. We move to the next round of the tournament, and his next opponent is definitely leading into the anti-meta. Morpeko, Dunsparce, and Gligar support the more meta trio of Shadow Scizor, Diggersby, and Credilli. Taking a look across the two teams, Shadow Scizor does look very, very strong here, and it looks like Sejun has brought the Shadow Scizor, but it's not on the lead, instead leading Dusclops into Diggersby. This is a winning matchup for the Dusclops, as long as there's no Scorching Sands debuff from the Diggersby. Every time Diggersby throws Scorching Sands, there's a 30% chance at an attack drop. Diggersby gets its first roll at a Scorching Sands drop here. The Scorching Sands lands, there is the attack drop, and this now makes a pretty dominant matchup for Dusclops suddenly significantly closer, as the Ice Punches are now not nearly as threatening as they typically would be. Another Scorching Sands launched by the Diggersby, and again, another no shield. Dusclops is one of the tanks on this team, able to absorb hit after hit, so that way the shields can be saved for the Glacier Shadow Pokemon in the back. Diggersby opting for a Fire Punch here. Fire Punch will not pick up the knockout, so Dusclops will be able to win the zeros, but this is potentially going to set up a really nice farm down, as Credilli could try and go for a full farm down here. That's what Credilli is going to go for, and Credilli gets a massive energy head start, but in comes Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor immediately put under pressure from the Rock Tomb. Scizor will commit the shield. Rock Tomb does not knock out, but it inflicts some serious damage. Quick switch to Shadow Gligar, answered with the Shadow Quagsire, and now we have reached the end game. That Shadow Scizor is absolutely where Sejun will be keeping the final shield. Shadow Scizor really needs shields to succeed. Gligar going for the dig. Dig, unfortunately, not going to be enough to pick up the knockout, and I believe that was actually a charge attack priority tie, Aqua Tail to the Aerial Ace. And that being a charge attack priority tie is devastating for Bakeman 1, because now Sejun can just no shield, bring in the Shadow Scizor, and Shadow Scizor is going to sweep. Shadow Scizor launches the Trailblaze, that's big damage, in comes Credilli. Credilli is going to get to the Rock Tomb, but Sejun just commits the shield. Shadow Scizor gets the farm down, Scizor exits with so much energy, in comes the Gligar, and it's just too little, too late for the Gligar. Shadow Scizor sweeps the endgame, and that's going to be a 1-0 series lead. After how strong Shadow Scizor was in Game 1, I wouldn't be surprised to see Morpeko being brought in Game number 2, and we do see Morpeko brought in the back. It's the same leads as last game, but Morpeko is a very important counter to Shadow Scizor, as due to its electric subtyping, it resists Bullet Punch, meaning that it's one of the few Pokemon that, even though it's pretty glassy itself, can actually absorb a lot of Bullet Punches. The leads are the same, so it is a favorable lead for Sejun, but if Morpeko is able to potentially grab some kind of advantage and then switch in, things could get very uncomfortable for Sejun. In the meantime, both battlers content to play out the lead matchup, trading Scorching Sands for Ice Punch. Sejun actually undertaps here, which does give a free quick attack to the Diggersby, allowing Diggersby to make a Scorching Sands and win switch or shield advantage. Sejun is going to surrender switch advantage, but considering what's in the back, that may not be ideal. In comes Morpeko. Morpeko is going to farm up to the Electric Aura Wheel, winning charge attack priority and baiting with the Psychic Fangs. The Psychic Fangs bait is successful, grabbing a shield from Scizor and applying a debuff to Scizor's defense. Morpeko will respect the potential Trailblaze, but Scizor is now just going to go straight for the Night Slash. Even a Night Slash would do quite a bit of resisted damage, so we do see the shield from Morpeko. Morpeko farms up to the back-to-back Psychic Fangs, the Aura Wheel here to guarantee the knockout. Sejun no shields, down goes Scizor, and Quagsire is going to have to try and sweep. In comes the Quagsire. Quagsire immediately hit with the Electric Aura Wheel. Electric Aura Wheel does big damage. In the back, it's going to be Quagsire's worst nightmare, a Grass type. Credilli hits the field. But if you remember back to when I introduced the team, part of why Quagsire is so good is the only Grass type in the meta does not run a Grass fast move. It runs a Poison fast move in Acid, meaning that this Quagsire, even though it's up against a Grass type, is taking basically no damage. That allows it to shield the Rock Tomb, make a second Stone Edge, KO the Credilli, farm down Morpeko with Mud Shots, fist pump from Sejun as he advances in this series 2-0 and moves on to day number 2. The first matchup we'll be taking a look at from day number 2 is Sejun versus Stop, Think, and Sleep, who's running a team with Diggersby, Drapion, Dusclops, Annihilate, Dedenne, and Credilli. For game number 1, it's a very neutral lead, Diggersby into Mandibuzz. Now this is an extremely neutral matchup. Both of these Pokemon are well known for their massive amounts of bulk, so in this matchup, the thing to look at is going to be the backlines. Stop Think has Shadow Drapion and Credilli in the back, and for Sejun, we see Shadow Quagsire and Shadow Scizor. So unfortunately for Stop Think, the Shadow Drapion in the back is going to have nowhere to go. The Shadow Drapion, it doesn't like to see Mandibuzz, so Stop Think may be thinking if I can just neutralize the Mandibuzz, Drapion may have play in the back, but unfortunately, the team that Sejun has brought triple hard counters the Drapion. So unfortunately, the Drapion is going to basically provide no value for Stop Think in this endgame. Stop Think just doesn't know it yet. Mandibuzz will fire off the Aerial Ace into the Diggersby. This Aerial Ace will not pick up the knockout, but the Air Slash after will. Now this does give Stop Think an opportunity to get an energy advantage on the Drapion. Quagsire will absorb a crunch better than Shadow Scizor, so this will inadvertently give Sejun the alignment that he needs to win game number 1. As Stop Think has made a pretty unusual choice with his Credilli, opting for Bullet Seed over Acid. Acid is the more commonly used moveset this season, but Bullet Seed means that it would actually do very, very well into the Quagsire. But in comes Shadow Scizor, and Shadow Scizor is about to just completely run away with this game. Shadow Scizor is now debuffed, but gets a full farm down, exiting at full health, and the bullet punches just continue to add up more and more. We do see an Aqua Tail bait. Shadow Scizor going to be hit with another Aqua Tail, but this just simply will not do enough damage. The Aqua Tail is going to land. Scizor fully bullet punches down, and Stop Think loses game number 1 without using a single Protect Shield. That Scizor was a big problem in game number 1, so for game number 2, we do see an adjustment from Stop Think, and that adjustment is the Shadow Annihilate. Shadow Annihilate is one of the few Pokemon that does an amazing job at destroying Shadow Scizor, as Shadow Scizor just gets outdamaged. The counters from Shadow Annihilate do more damage than the bullet punches do in return. This Dusclops is going to continue to spam out these Ice Punches, trying to hit for more and more damage. Credilli is going to go down a shield early and then fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb will not be enough to knock out here. We will see the no shield from Sejun. Sejun will make one final Ice Punch before he does eventually get Bullet Seeded down. So the Ice Punch is going to land. Credilli does get that full farm down and exits with quite a lot of energy, and this energy threatens everything. In comes Scizor. We see an aggressive pivot out, sending in the Diggersby, and that's going to bait out Shadow Quagsire. And at this point, the Shadow Annihilate with a shield is basically going to be able to sweep this game. Sejun knows that he cannot afford to shield this move because the loaded Grass Knot from Credilli would do way more damage. So Sejun is forced to let that go. But now we will see the Scorching Sands reach. Sejun gonna let this through, gonna try and set up the Shadow Scizor to sweep. Scizor is going to fire off its energy, winning charge attack priority over the Diggersby. Interestingly, Scizor does opt for the Night Slash instead of the Trailblaze. Both moves would knock out, but with the Trailblaze, then he could actually leave boosted. And now he's going to be -1 attack as the Rock Tomb comes out, and then in comes Shadow Annihilate. Shadow Annihilate immediately met with the Night Slash. Sejun needs the Night Slash boost to win the game, but the boost does not come through, and Annihilate is just going to farm through the poor Shadow Scizor. Scizor makes one final Night Slash, but it's not enough damage. Annihilate hangs on, and Stop Think gets a much needed equalizer in this best of 5 series. The leads are set for game 3. It's a nightmare lead for Sejun, leading Quagsire into the Bullet Seed Credilli. Shadow Scizor save switch swiftly answered with Diggersby. Scizor just gonna fire off the Night Slash, not even building up to the Trailblaze. The Night Slash is gonna be shielded up by the Diggersby. Diggersby just looking to preserve some health. Diggersby Fire Punch does get shielded. Scizor firing off another Night Slash. Stop Think knows that as long as there's not a Night Slash boost, then Scizor cannot win this straight Night Slash. All Diggersby would have to do is just commit the shield on that third Night Slash, and then the Fire Punch will KO. It's a charge attack priority tie. Stop Think decides not to shield. Stop Think could have prioritized switch advantage, but instead commits to shield advantage here, sending in the Annihilate, but Annihilate is now going to have to deal with a Trailblaze. That's going to force a shield, and suddenly the Annihilate, it's up energy, but it doesn't have a shield, and that's not where Shadow Annihilate wants to be. In comes the Quagsire. Quagsire going to take some pretty substantial damage here from that Rage Fist. Quagsire will make the Aqua Tail. We see the catch onto Credilli. This Credilli obviously is on Bullet Seed, as we've seen in the other game. Quagsire going to farm up, banking a move, sending in the Dusclops. Dusclops is so bulky. Dusclops is not worried about Credilli's energy lead here at all. Dusclops will get to fire off the Ice Punch. While this will not be enough to knock out, it does do valuable chip damage, getting the Credilli into a range where even a Shadow Punch could KO. The Rock Tomb is going to be launched here on charge attack priority to that Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch will be able to pick up the knockout here onto the Credilli. Credilli gets KO'd. In comes Annihilate. Annihilate is forced to throw energy, and this means that Sejun will win the game because Quagsire banked an Aqua Tail. So back in comes the Quagsire, very low on health, but the Aqua Tail loaded and ready to go. Down goes Annihilate, and Sejun is one win away from advancing. The leads are set for game number 4. It's Credilli once again for Stop Think, but this time greeted by the Dusclops from Sejun. Sejun gonna look to overfarm in this matchup as Credilli applies an immediate debuff with Rock Tomb. This means that these super effective Ice Punches are suddenly not nearly as threatening due to that attack drop. Ice Punch number 1 is going to land, Credilli very comfortably absorbing the first one, but deciding to put up a shield on the second. As we take a look at the back lines, there's Shadow Annihilate and Diggersby for Stop Think. And for Sejun, we have that double Shadow backline, Shadow Quagsire and Shadow Scizor. This Credilli has quite a lot of energy. Can the Bullet Seed down happen? No, it cannot. The Dusclops hangs on, but this is only a Shadow Punch. It will not knock out. This energy from Credilli is very threatening into both Pokemon that Sejun has in the back. Sejun brings in the Quagsire. It's a Blind Rock Tomb. Sejun calls the Blind Rock Tomb. What a play! Snipes down with the Shadow Scizor, and now Shadow Scizor is up a shield and looking to sweep. Shadow Scizor going to be answered with Diggersby here, but this is just not an answer. Shadow Scizor going straight for the Trailblaze. Stop Think is going to no shield, but Trailblaze connects. That is devastating damage. Shadow Scizor previously in the Annihilate matchup was 1 stage debuffed, so the bullet punches were not nearly as threatening as they typically would be, whereas now Shadow Scizor is actually +1 attack, which means these bullet punches are going to be terrifying. In comes Annihilate. Annihilate immediately put on the defensive as Night Slash is going to be reached. Shadow Scizor gets to another Night Slash, and this is going to be game over. Sejun Park advancing by a score of 3-1. Moving on in day number 2 of Pokemon Go Battle Korea. The final match we'll be taking a look at from this tournament is the Grand Finals between Sejun and Deepie1231. Deepie's team consists of Greninja, Lapras, Talonflame, Tinkaton, Marowak, and Drapion. The battlers are locked in for game number 1. It's Talonflame for Deepie into Credilli for Sejun. And Sejun's Credilli is on the preferred moveset, which is Acid. Acid gives pretty nice fast move pressure in this matchup, able to outpace the Talonflame and strike first with a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb grabs the shield. Deepie is going to bait with a debuffed Fly. Sejun with the bait call. That works out very nicely for Sejun, as now Deepie is forced to fire off the second Fly in order to pull a Protect Shield. Credilli is going to look to farm up 4 Acids and the Rock Tomb. The Incinerate damage will not register unless this move is shielded, which it is not. In comes Marowak looking for a farm down, but because Sejun overfarmed so well in the Talon matchup, Sejun makes a move, grabs a shield with a Rock Tomb bait, and now this Marowak is debuffed and probably going to look to pivot out. In comes the Quagsire, the switch into the Drapion, answered with the Air Slash Mandibuzz, and this game is already over. Mandibuzz has winning matchups into both of Deepie's remaining Pokemon. Mandibuzz, one of the key reasons why it's on this team is it's a very effective Pokemon at shutting down Shadow Drapion energy. Drapion is able to land Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail in this matchup. So much energy used, and Mandibuzz simply just does not care. It shakes off that damage. There's the switch into the Marowak. Quick switch back into the Quagsire. Quagsire can survive a Bone Club. Bone Club not going to be a particular problem. Only one Mud Shot away from the Aqua Tail, and this is vital damage, as Aqua Tail is going to get Marowak into potential farm down range for the Mandibuzz. Quagsire is going to end up no-shielding here and getting KO'd, but Mandibuzz is going to get the Air Slash farm down. In comes the Drapion. Drapion, no Protect Shields left to hide behind. Aerial Ace will pick up the KO, and that's a Game 1 win for Sejun. For game number 2, a bit of a switch up in strategy here from Deepie. The Shadow Drapion lead, and it finds a target in the Acid Credilli. Acid does help Credilli in this matchup. With Bullet Seed, it was a truly nightmarish matchup for the Credilli, but with Acid, Credilli can actually make this matchup a lot closer. Sejun no-shielded the first move on Credilli, which means he's just going to play out the Zero Shield. Since Rock Tomb gives a guaranteed attack drop, if you're going to use a Protect Shield, you're going to shield up the first one, as future ones will do less. So Sejun is going to let this go, and now can potentially get a farm down with Mandibuzz or Quagsire. Opts for the Mandibuzz, but as we see in the back, Mandibuzz suddenly has a check. Deepie made a team adjustment and has brought Tinkaton. Tinkaton completely shuts down that Pokemon. In comes Quagsire, swiftly answered with the Lapras. Quagsire gonna full send the Stone Edge. Deepie shields at the last second and does get that shield call right. Now this Sparkling Aria is going to grab the shield right back, but the thing to watch in this matchup is Quagsire's health bar. These Psy Waves just add up more and more and more. Quagsire is in a war that it cannot possibly win. Quagsire no shields, and Sejun at this point just realizes there is no ability to win this game, so Sejun is basically just going to concede at this point and focus his energy on game number 2. So that's why he just never threw the move with the Quagsire, as he realized it was an impossible game, and why he's just never throwing any energy with Mandibuzz and letting Deepie get the farm down to even up the series. This is a best of 5 series, so whoever wins game 3 will be at a massive advantage. It's Shadow Marowak into Shadow Quagsire. Shadow Marowak does win the one shield matchup versus Shadow Quagsire, as it's able to do enough Mud Slap damage that a Bone Club will actually knock out. That is going to do a pretty solid amount of damage onto the Marowak. Marowak returns fire with the Bone Club, and Quagsire will invest a shield. Quagsire will be able to grab the shield back, so it looks like Sejun will probably end up playing out the 2 shield here and really trying to make a play for alignment, because he's brought the Mandibuzz. And last game, when he didn't play for alignment, Mandibuzz got destroyed by Tinkaton. In comes Shadow Drapion. He's going to stay in with the Quagsire, fire off the Aqua Tail, and now it's time. Mandibuzz finds a target that isn't the Tinkaton, and that is incredibly good for Sejun. Sejun more than happy to let his Mandibuzz absorb Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail from the Shadow Drapion. The switch timers are misaligned by 1 charge attack, so after the next Aqua Tail, Deepie can potentially have an ability to switch out. This Aqua Tail is going to land onto the Mandibuzz. Switch Clock is available. There's the switch into the Tinkaton. Mandibuzz is forced to fire off a Dark Pulse just to burn the switch timer. Dark Pulse never going to do a lot of damage. In comes the Quagsire. Quagsire does make the Aqua Tail, and this is some pretty significant damage. Tinkaton not a big fan of that whatsoever. Tinkaton trying for a farm down, but realizing that it's not going to get there, firing off the Bulldoze. Bulldoze will KO the Quagsire. Out comes Dusclops, and Dusclops is just too bulky. Unfortunately for Deepie, he just can't do enough damage to take this win. Dusclops, so bulky. There's a catch attempt there, and it is unsuccessful. The Dusclops is absolutely loaded on energy. In comes the Shadow Drapion. Drapion now does have the Aqua Tail, but needs a crunch if it wants to potentially knock out here. There's the switch into the Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz gets the fire off the Aerial Ace, denying the energy on the Drapion. There's still the Tinkaton, but Tinkaton is too low. Tinkaton gets Air Slash down, Mandibuzz's revenge, and Sejun is 1 win away from winning the tournament. Hopping into game number 4, Credilli into Greninja. Greninja has a pretty significant pacing advantage. This is the Halloween hat Greninja, and it's a shiny Greninja as well. Greninja is going to be met with a Rock Tomb bait. Does Deepie decide to call this? Deepie does not, will end up committing a shield. Now that is a little bit unfortunate, as now the Hydro Cannons, which are previously a really nice selling point from the Greninja because of its monster attack stat, are now suddenly a lot less threatening. Another Rock Tomb coming out, Greninja is gonna no-shield. Greninja does get KO'd, and that's a very convincing one-shield win for the Credilli. Credilli will make the Rock Tomb into the Drapion, and it's all going wrong for Deepie here, as he just loses so much health. Drapion can't even farm down, forced to fire off energy, but the moment switch advantage was lost, this game was lost as well, because there is Mandibuzz for the Drapion energy and Quagsire for the Tinkaton. So even if Deepie had potentially brought the Tinkaton into the Credilli, unfortunately, it still would have aligned to the exact same. So the moment that Credilli won switch advantage, this game was effectively over. While Tinkaton does play the Quagsire matchup extremely closely, Tinkaton would need to be able to sweep, and unfortunately, that's just not something Tinkaton will be able to do. Tinkaton goes for the Bulldoze, able to get the farm down after, but there's a full health Mandibuzz with a shield. In comes the Drapion. Drapion will get to fire off Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail, but Sejun knows as long as the Protect shield remains to shield a potential play rough, there is no ability for Deepie to win this game. Drapion makes a final Aqua Tail. Drapion's energy, it's getting so much value, but it's just simply not enough. In comes the Tinkaton going for the Bulldoze. There's the shield from Sejun. Sejun will click the Dark Pulse, and this should do it. Tinkaton, normally Mandibuzz's worst nightmare. There's the Fist Pump, as Sejun Park is the Pokemon Go Battle Korea Tournament Champion. While this was an invitational tournament and not a tournament that handed out qualifications for the World Championships later this year, Sejun is actually already qualified for the Pokemon Go World Championships due to a strong finish in the Korean official qualifiers. So the good news is this is not the last we'll see of Sejun Park, as in a month's time, in August in Anaheim, California, he will be competing for the opportunity to claim the crown of Pokemon Go World Champion. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Henry. This is More Slice Henry, my second channel where I cover a wide variety of topics that I don't feel fit on my main channel. If you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you have not, and I'll see you guys in the next video.